Hello, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a new Rapidi webinar about data integration. Today we'll be diving again into the world of maximizing business energy, and we'll discuss the integration between Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance. So I'd like to start by presenting myself. I'm Serene. I'm a sales consultant here at Rapidi. And here with me, my colleague Andrea. Andrea is a data integration consultant, and she will help you know about the most important details of integration. So let's start by today's agenda. We will have an introduction to Rapidi. We will then discuss the Rapidi data integration solutions. We will then go through Salesforce and MS Dynamics 365 Finance integration. I'll then tell you about some of our customer testimonials, and I'll also explain how you can get started with us. In the end, we always have a Q&A session, so feel free to write all of your questions and doubts in the chat because we will go through all of them, and we will also take some of the most common questions that we normally get. So let's start by first topic, which is Rapidi company profile. So at Rapidi, we have over 30 years of data integration expertise. Our journey started back then when old group of Microsoft was called Division, as the CEO and founder of Rapidi, who is Michael Bock, was part of Navision. And this speaks about our expertise in the Microsoft side. We specialize in data integration for some of the major players of the tech world, such as Salesforce, Microsoft, and many others. And we do have customers worldwide through different industries. What we offer is a flexible, simple, and robust solution, which is complete with everything you need. And it's based on a cutting-edge cloud technology that does not require any programming at all. And it's very easy, user-friendly, and doesn't need any IT resources. So the solution is flexible to suit all of your needs. At Rapidi, we go the extra mile for our customers as we're offering the outstanding support. We don't only give you the solution and leave you there, we stand by you from the beginning till the end. And we have our support included within the subscription. So this is everything you need, and there is no hidden costs or maintenance costs later. And these are the main reasons of the great customer references we have and the 5 stars that we maintain in the App Exchange rating. I think that's it from my side. Andrea, over to you.
Okay, perfect. So now we will talk a bit about Rapidi data integration solutions. So from our point of view, we do think that any integration should be made easy and straightforward. Now, speaking of Rapidi, we do want to say that Rapidi is an innovative iPaaS, and Rapidi will focus always on simplicity. When we say simplicity, we refer to design, installation, and use. Rapidi is a cloud integration system that provides pre-configured mapping templates, and they allow you to quickly integrate various systems. We do have a lot of experience in integrating the Microsoft ERPs with CRMs, for example, Salesforce, HubSpot, but our experience and expertise are not limited to that. Now, we do have to mention a couple of things here is that Rapidi is an iPaaS with no staging of your data. And then a very important aspect is that it is easy to be set up. So you don't have to be technical or anything like that. We can connect multiple systems in companies. So if you have multiple legal entities in your system, then we can definitely do that. You can transfer any type of data. You can have standard, custom, or even a combination of these. And then we do offer all-inclusive subscriptions and services. So it means that you know from the very beginning what's included, and you will know exactly how to move forward with your project. Now, we do want to highlight the Rapidi's most common endpoint. So we do work a lot with the Microsoft ERPs and other CRMs such as Salesforce, HubSpot, but we do that because there's a high demand for them and customers need that type of integration. Of course, here you will see other systems on this page. So for example, we do work with Oracle databases, with SQL databases, or other platforms such as Storyblock, Google BigQuery. So there are quite a few of combinations that can be used from an integration point of view. Of course, if your system is not here and you do need an integration, then you can reach out and then we can make recommendations based on what you need. We do have situations when customers reach out and they ask us about integrating new systems. So we work on those and we build the needed support. Next, we'll focus more on the finance and Salesforce integration. So as I mentioned before, we do want to make sure that the entire process is simplified and you don't have to go through any type of challenges or issues. Now, of course, when we talk about an integration, then you will have the questions, why do you need to integrate? Well, here you have 4 buckets. So this would be the main reasons for that. First one is collaboration. So when you have 2 systems talking to each other, then you will activate your current data, and then you have this full customer overview. And then when you have all that in your system, then your teams can collaborate better. The second bucket is efficiency. So as soon as you have your data in both systems, so everything is there, so everything is up to date, then you will not have double data entries. So this means that you don't switch between those 2 systems. You eliminate rework, and then you have a process automation in place. Then the next one is about quality. So now you have data going back and forth, and now you can say, okay, this is consistent. So you have data that you can trust, and this means that you can build better reports, and then you have increased user adoption. And then last but not least, we talk about growth. So as soon as you have everything up and running and you have consistent data, you can say, okay, then I'll have better decision support, then I'll have increased customer satisfaction, and in the end, then I can sell more and faster. Now we'll talk a bit about the benefits of integration. When you are integrating 2 systems, there are quite a few benefits for all teams. But here we have highlighted the ones that are meant for the sales and the finance teams. So for example, here, the sales teams, they will be able to have access to the customer financial data directly in Salesforce. So it means that they will be able to see everything that's related to that customer, invoices, payment history, everything. And then for the finance teams, then they will be able to get sales forecasts, and then they will be able to see the orders directly in finance. So they can see everything that's linked to a specific customer, and also all the transactions that are still there. And of course, 2 other benefits would be efficiency gains, right? So here you can eliminate manual data entry and you reduce errors. So then you don't really have to intervene in this process. And this means that you will reduce, if not eliminate, errors. And in the end, you have a higher customer satisfaction, because then as soon as you have a lot of data in your system and the data is consistent, you will have faster response times. And when you respond, when you respond faster, then you will be able to do that by providing more accurate and more consolidated data. Now, when it comes to an integration, we have to look at the key integration goals. So first of all, when you have 2 systems connected, then that's the moment when we talk about data synchronization. So it means that you keep everything up to date and consistent between systems. So you can say you have customers, contacts, orders, so everything will be up to date and everything will be correct in both systems. Next, when you have the integration in place, you will have this full process automation. So for example, you'll have workflows which will be automated. And one example here is that you create orders in finance based on the opportunities that you have in Salesforce. Or then you create new records or update the ones that you already have. So for example, you have a new customer that has been created, but then someone makes a change. So someone will add a new address or new information. So that update will be synchronized and will be visible in both systems. And then as soon as you have this process automation, then you eliminate data silos and manual processes. And in the end, you have this enhanced visibility, because then all the data that you have in finance will also be visible in Salesforce. So all end users will be able to look at the same data. Now we'll talk a bit about the data flows that we have between Salesforce and finance. So as I mentioned before, we do provide those mapping templates. So they are pre-built, so they are ready to be used by any customer. So what you see here on the screen, those are the mapping templates that can be used right away. So for example, you can use the mapping templates that we have for accounts. So if you create new accounts in Salesforce, then you can transfer them over to finance, and then you'll have the same information in finance as well. And then you can do it the other way around. The same thing applies through contact. So you have a mapping template ready to be used with all the data, with all the fields mapped, and then you can see exactly how the information is being transferred over. The same thing applies to products. So products and their prices, right? So in here, if you have new products in finance, then you can have that sent over to Salesforce, and the same thing applies to prices. Then we have opportunities. So in Salesforce, you have an opportunity, so that's closed one. So then you do want to get the order out of it. So via the mapping template, then you can have that in finance automatically. Then orders. If you have in finance orders and you need to see those in Salesforce as well, then you can use the mapping templates and have all that information there. And then we have payments. Of course, if you have historical data and you need to send that over to Salesforce, you can do it, and you'll have everything linked to that customer. And then next we have sales invoices and credit memos. If you want to see all the sales history in Salesforce, you can use the mapping template and have that transferred over. And apart from that, if you have any custom objects or tables that you want to use, or maybe a different process, then you can go ahead and use a Rapidi. It's just a matter of setting up the mappings, and then you should be able to transfer your data correctly. Here we can see the quote to cash example. So this would be the standard process. Of course, you might have a different one, but here this is the most common and usual one that we see. So in Salesforce, you would have the lead, and then the next step would be to have the account and the contact. So as soon as you have that in Salesforce, then you do need to have the same information in finance. So what do you do? Then you have the integration up and running so that you transfer the same data from Salesforce to finance. So you have the same customer in contact in finance as well. And then you have opportunities. So you have an opportunity that has been closed. So you need to have a new order for that. So you will use the integration to see that in finance. So a new order will be created with the same information that you have on the opportunity. And then we talk about orders. You can send all orders that you have from finance to Salesforce and associate those with a particular account. And then sales history. So here we talk about payments, invoices, credit notes. So everything can be sent over to Salesforce, so you have a good visibility of everything that you have there. And apart from that, you can also synchronize products and their prices. So that's something that you can always send over to Salesforce or to finance. Now we have some common integration scenarios. So here, for example, we have the order management process. So here, a new order in Salesforce will trigger an automated order creation process in finance. So this means that if you choose to send orders from Salesforce to finance, you can do that. And then you'll have the same order in finance. And by having that in a few seconds, then you ensure inventory management, right? It's accurate. And then you can make sure that the invoicing will be done right, and also the fulfillment. And then another scenario is for the customer financial visibility. So you have sales reps that need to see data in Salesforce. So they can have access to the customer financial data directly. So they will be able to see outstanding invoices or any other data that is linked to those customers. So by having access to that information, they will be able to make informed decisions, and they will be able to manage all accounts better. Another scenario is the one where you need to have, you need to synchronize invoices. So you have an invoice in finance, so that has been posted, and you want that to be sent over to Salesforce. So that can be done via the integration. So whenever the invoice is posted, then that's being sent to Salesforce, and then the sales reps will be able to see that new transaction in Salesforce and link to that particular account. So it's a very good way to track any statuses, the billing, and also the payments linked to that invoice. Now here we have a workflow example. So we talked about this a bit, but it's really important to give a few details. So for example, you have an opportunity in Salesforce, so that opportunity will reach a specific stage. So usually you want to close it, and that's it. And as soon as you close it, then we do have a few steps afterwards. So the logic in Rapidi would be the following. The opportunity details are being retrieved, and then this data is translated and mapped according to the finance schema. And then we do create a new order in finance with all the information that you had on the opportunity. So as soon as the order is created, that specific order will get a new order number, right? And then once this process is completed, then we write back the order number into the Salesforce opportunity. So this is a full process for the specific workflow, and you will be able to see which opportunity is linked to which sales order. So it's a good way to see the connection between them and make sure that everything is up to date in both systems. Now, of course, we talked about why we need to integrate and the processes around it, but we also have to talk a bit about the implementation process. So before you work on any integration, you have to go through a few steps. So first, you have an assessment. So you have to look at your business requirements, business processes, what you want to do, so how you want this to work. As soon as you have this defined and clear, then you go for step number 2, which is configuration. Here we set up the connections, we connect to your systems, and then we start using the mapping templates. Or if you have a custom setup, then we go ahead and set up the mappings for your specific case. So as soon as we are done with the configuration, we go into testing. So here you can run your own use cases, you run tests in a sandbox environment, and then you can ensure that data is being synchronized correctly. So as soon as you're done with testing and you say, okay, this is all good, then you can move into production and have your deployment completed. So you go live with your integration, and now you are transferring live data. And at this point, you are live in the production environment, and then post-go live, you do have support included. It means that if you have any questions or need any help with regards to your integration, you can reach out, and then our team will be able to help. Now we talked a bit about the mapping templates and about integrations in general. Now we'll take a look at how data looks like in Salesforce. So this is data that has been transferred from finance, right? So here you can see an example. So this is an account that has been transferred from finance to Salesforce. So in finance, I would have the same account with the same information. And then as soon as the account is created, then that's being pushed over to Salesforce. So we get to see the same data in here. And then apart from the account, then next in line would be the transactions. So here you can see the sales orders, you'll see the payments or the ledger entries, and then you can see the sales history. Under sales history, you would see invoices and credit memos. So in all cases, this is data that's coming from finance, and then you will see here everything that you also see in finance. So for example, if we say we have a sales order, so this has been transferred from finance, so this is the information that you have there as well. And then here you can see, apart from the customer information, you can see the total amounts, you can see amount including VAT, and then other details that are relevant for that specific customer. So this would be the general information. And then here, linked to it, you would see the products or the items. So here you can see which are the products that are on this specific order. You can see the ones that have been used, and then you would have the quantities, the amounts of everything that's associated with each of these items. So this is the type of information you would see for every single order, right? And then if you go to another one, then you would have here you have a ledger entry. So the same thing, this would be a payment that would be transferred from finance to Salesforce just to see all the information with regards to that. So you'll see the amount and then any other details that are important for that. So this would be sent from there. And then, for example, here, let's say a credit memo. So credit memo, you would have the account here associated with it, and then any other details that are relevant for that specific customer. Of course, if any changes are being made for this particular invoice in finance, then those changes will also be visible here. So if initially this will be sent with a specific a set of data, afterwards, any changes are also sent here, and this invoice will be updated. So this can be constantly updated if changes are being made in finance. So at any point in time, they will be visible. And then another thing here is that you'll see this full list here for each of them. And then as soon as there's, let's say, a new order coming in, then that order will also be visible here and added to the list. The same thing applies to ledger entries and then to sales history. All these are custom objects that we provide to customers, and they just need to be installed into the Salesforce environment. And as soon as you install them, you will be able to access them and see all the fields that are there. So they consist of all possible fields that you might need for any type of transaction. You can use all of them or just some of them. So it's up to you how you want this to be displayed. But you have everything that's required in order to understand the details about each one of them. So that's definitely something that's being used by a lot of our customers. Now let's go back to this part. So right now we'll talk about some of the Rapidi's key functionalities. So here we have a few. So the first one will be data mapping and transformation, real-time synchronization, customization and scalability, automated workflows, security measures, and monitoring and analytics. Let's start with the first one. So when it comes to data mapping and transformation, Rapidi will allow you to customize your data flows at any point in time. So if you want to add more fields to the mapping, if you want to change something, anything with regards to your data flows, you can do that. So for example, you have the pre-built connectors and templates. So you will have access to the mapping templates, but even though they consist of standard fields, you can always adjust them. So you can add more fields to them, you can add your custom fields, you can make any changes. Then you have what's called custom mapping. So if you have specific fields that need to be mapped and those are not part of the mapping template, then you can add them. So you can always add or remove fields from your mapping. So you're not limited in that regard. And then data transformation. So you can transform and convert any data. So if you have a mismatch in that sense between your systems, then you can use any of our formulas or expressions so that both systems are compatible and you transfer the right data from one system to another. Next, we have real-time synchronization. So as soon as you have an integration up and running, you do want to ensure that the data is up to date, always up to date in both systems. So for example, if we were to talk about the order to cash process, then you have a new order that's created in Salesforce, and that's automatically pushed to finance for fulfillment. So this is something that happens, let's say, in a few minutes, and you don't need any type of intervention. Then another example is that when you need financial updates. So someone made an update to a record, let's say, I don't know, created, changed the details for a specific customer, or maybe a new invoice has been created. So all those can be reflected in Salesforce. And this means that the sales teams will be able to have everything up to date and be informed. Next, we talk about customization and scalability. So Rapidi is scalable and can adapt to any business processes and structures. So for example, if you If you have your integration up and running, but you need to scale that to and include a new company or include new departments, you can do that. So you can always scale the integration that you have and include as many companies or departments that you need. And of course, it will ensure scalability for businesses of all sizes. So if you're a very small company or if you're a large enterprise, it doesn't really matter, because we have everything that you need in order to have your integration up and running at all times. And then, of course, you have customization. It can happen that you have an integration set up, but then later you need to make some changes or you need to add, let's say, more automation to it. So you can definitely do that because you have full control over your integration. Next, of course, we talk about the automated workflows. So Rapidi's automated workflows will streamline your business processes. So repetitive tasks will be automated. So end users will have to spend less time on this type of manual work. And this means that you will minimize errors. And very important is that you have the flexibility to customize your data flows. So at any point in time, if you need to do that, you can do it. And you can adjust the mappings or the integration itself to match your requirements. Then we have security measures. We are committed to data security and compliance, and we do want to make sure that companies feel safe about the way we handle their data. And that's the reason why we have encryption protocols, access controls, and many other security features. And then last but not least, monitoring and analytics. So any customer that's using Rapidi will have access to statistics. So we have these monitoring and analytics tools that allow you to track the integration performance. So what this means is that you will be able to get this fast insight into how things are going, like performance-wise, if there are any issues, if there are any kind of bottlenecks. So this will give you the opportunity to look into that, see what's happening, and then improve it if necessary. So it's a good way to understand how everything is running, if there are any issues, and then take actions afterwards. Now we have another section, which is a sneak peek into some of the Rapidi's functionality. So we have here a few. So a really interesting one is the write back functionality. So here we have two options. So one would be the store new ID field. So this is a functionality that allows you to store the ID of the newly created record into the source system. So when we covered the opportunity and the finance order scenario, we actually talked about this as well. We included the write back functionality. Because when you have a new opportunity in Salesforce, then in the end you close it and you need to have a new order created. So as soon as the order gets created in finance, then that order number will be written back into Salesforce on the opportunity. So that's one example where you would store back the order number. So then you can associate your opportunity with a specific order. Another write back option would be the one called transferred field. So here you can write a timestamp, which is like a date time field text or Boolean field back into the source table on each transferred record. So for example, you transfer, let's say, customers from one system to another. And as soon as the records are being transferred, then you write back the date and time when they have been transferred successfully. So it's a way for you to get confirmation on the fact that they got transferred and that you should see them in both systems. Next one is about link storages. So link storages are dynamic lookup tables, and they can store your company data within Rapidi. What will happen is that you set up the link storage and you define the parameters for it. And then at runtime, so when the data flow is running and transferring data, all the records will be added to this table. So let's say you are transferring customers from Finance to Salesforce and you are using this link storage. As soon as you run that data flow, then all the customer IDs will be added to the list. So then you should see a long list with the customer numbers from Finance, and then next to them, you would see the Salesforce IDs that belong to those accounts. And this will happen every time the data flow runs. So you don't need to intervene or do any kind of manual work. And then more and more will be added, and those can be used in, on other data flows or referenced in other places. Then we have tags. So tags are parameters or variables that can be set up either at the connection or the data flow level. And it can serve so many purposes. The most common one is the one where you have multiple legal entities in your ERP, like we have here for Finance. You can say you have 5. And you have one organization, Salesforce. So you want to send data from all 5 legal entities to Salesforce. So this is the place where we use tags. So you associate every legal entity with a specific tag or parameter. And then when the data flow is running, then you will transfer data for each one of those 5 legal entities. So it's a way to keep everything organized, and use the same data flow or transfer. So you don't have to have a different setup for every single company. So it's a good way to save time and make sure that everything runs through the same master transfer. So these are really good. Of course, there are so many other purposes, but again, every company is different. So any company can be creative and use them in their own way. I think that's it from my end. Back to you, Serene.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, now Rapidi in a nutshell. So Rapidi is offering complete Microsoft ERP and Salesforce integration solutions. And the integration services also include integrations between Microsoft Dynamic products, such as Business Central to Microsoft Sales, and any other ERP or CRM system, such as HubSpot. So the solution that we offer is cost-effective, scalable business model. Data integration via Rapidi is possible for both cloud and on-premise systems. So whatever you have, we can do it. And we have robust development tools. We offer Prebuilt mapping templates. They are ready to use at any time, totally customizable. And Rapidi is approachable for non-IT users. So no development required or any technical skills is needed. It's also manageable without IT resources post-go live, as you have our support included within the subscription. And now I'd like to explain why our customers consider Rapidi as an all-inclusive investment model. So it comes with a one-time implementation fee and a yearly subscription, including the post-go live support. And this is all you need, like, as I mentioned in the beginning, no hidden costs or maintenance costs or anything. This is the transparency that we work with. What you get as a Rapidi customer will be access to the integration platform, and then you will have the integration configuration, advanced data toolbox. You get access to log and notifications, monitoring, and the Rapidi connector. You also have access to our integration templates, and they are complete business processes already pre-configured based on best practices. They are totally customizable, and we give you access to a documentation so that you can read and check about it. When it comes to the support, it will help you maintain the integration. You can add fields to existing transfers. You have access to integration advisory, and you will be able to resolve any data errors that may occur. And this is, as I said before, already included within the subscription. And now I'd like to go to the next section, which is our customer testimonials. So at Rapidi, we are very happy and proud of our happy customers, and especially for maintaining the 5 stars and as an average rating on Salesforce App Exchange. So this reflects the fact that the solution is working well, and of course also the support, because customers give a lot of value to these 2 things. We also have another internal platform when we have also 5 stars as an average support rating through the past 5 years. And this means that we're doing it well. And here we are sharing one of the reviews that we have in App Exchange from Diamond Wipes International Company, where they highlight the fact that Rapidi is offering a wonderful solution and the best customer service ever. And I would like to share one of the case stories that we have so that you can learn a little bit how we do it and how we can help the customers grow. So today we'll talk about the AliMed case story. First of all, I would like to tell you about the company so that you know what they do. So AliMed is unique in healthcare products with customization capabilities. They are constantly improving patient outcomes and experiences, and they cater to patient needs from hospital settings to home care. The company is built on exceptional customer service and high-quality products. It was established in 1970 by Julian and Barbara Cherubini in Boston, and they launched custom insoles and braces in the 1974. So they're offering a variety of products with many available in custom sizes. So what happened with AliMed is that they had a transition into Salesforce CRM for enhanced ERP integration, and that led to improvement need. And they looked for enhanced sales support that went beyond what their new ERP system offered. So the initial integration efforts acquired a new CRM system and partnered with a third party for ERP integration, aiming to enhance the CRM and address data integrity issues. They had some data quality issues, some duplicate records were generated due to new accounts being erroneously created instead of linking to existing ones, which was compounded by insufficient tools to manage and resolve data quality issues. They also had integration obstacles as the integration was basic, resulting in ongoing record duplication, so they targeted an improved CRM and integration solution. They then decided to switch to Salesforce. So Salesforce was identified as a better choice for managing customer data, but integration challenges persisted. They had an evaluation of JetterPit, so the integration choice did not resolve ERP customization and data integrity issues. And the first implementation test was unsuccessful after 8 months of development. So then they made a strategic decision. They decided to import the definitive data list of healthcare locations to eliminate duplicate records in Salesforce. And then they realized that JetterPit was not enough for handling this complexity, leading to the search for another alternative solution. So they had data quality issues in the system, and they did not have the tools back then to solve it. And this is when they decided to choose and implement Rapidi. So Rapidi helped them in many ways, and they discovered Rapidi's mirroring feature, for example, for data integration. When it comes to data push, we enabled seamless transfer of customer data from definitive data to Salesforce without any timestamps. When it comes to the SQL table utilization, we defined a table to connect multiple healthcare locations and definitive data to their ERP system. And also Rapidi easily handled custom configurations, simplifying table management. The updates to the middle table reflected some changes in Salesforce without any issues. And we solved the legacy issues of grouping multiple healthcare sites under one customer in ERP. We helped them create detailed account records in Salesforce linked to specified healthcare facilities and enable analytics on purchasing trends at local healthcare sites instead of just at the corporate level. And also the Rapidi consultants improved data transfer efficiency and reduced the time to access historical sales data in Salesforce. So they then highlighted the fact that Rapidi is one of the best software purchases that they have made to help them support the Salesforce implementation. And here we have the reflections on the successful implementation. So the initial focus on cost effectiveness in integrating ERP with Salesforce. They learned that the cheapest solution isn't always the best. Expertise really matters. Pattern with Rapidi improved data accuracy and integration. They benefited from Salesforce ticketing system for quick problem resolution. And reports submitted are often addressed overnight, which is enhancing the efficiency. So AliMed is viewing Rapidi as a crucial investment for Salesforce reports. And before Rapidi, they lacked the visibility of errors. Now they have comprehensive oversight and emphasizes the importance of moving forward rather than reverting to past challenges. So here we have Jimmy Matthew, who's a Salesforce administrator at AliMed, who says that before Rapidi, we couldn't see errors and therefore couldn't fix any problems ourselves. We have so much visibility now, and we can see the jobs being run, we can control them, and we have all the details of activities, including errors and the logs. So we can go back, we can only go forwards now. So this is one example of a happy customer that we have, that we helped. And now I would like to move to the next section, which is how you can get started with us. So if you're interested in being a customer or a partner of Rapidi, it all works in the same way. It's really easy. All you need to do is go to a Rapidi website and go to the Contact Us field. You have to fill in some information such as your name, surname, and few details of the project that you have. And of course, you'll see that we normally get back to you very fast, and we'll schedule a meeting. We will talk about everything and make it work. When it comes to the implementation process, we have these 5 phases approach that we use to make sure that the implementation goes very smooth. We normally start by a discovery, which is the integration, project scope validation, and project kickoff. Then our consultants will be onboarding you into the Rapidi platform and online collaboration platform. We use Basecamp. Then we have the configuration, which is the integration configuration on the Rapidi platform and end-user testing. We then would move to deploy to production, which is the initial data synchronization, upload of historical data, and the actual cutover to the production environment. Then we have the last step, which is the transition to support, and then you have the post-go-live support, project closure, and transition to the operational support. So that's pretty much everything. And of course, if you have any doubts of how we do it, we are happy to answer your questions. And now, talking about questions, it's time for the questions. I think I've seen something in the chat. So we'll start by that first. So they are asking if we can integrate the Power Apps add-ons to Salesforce.
Well, that depends, because you do have a large number of apps as part of Power Apps, so to speak, and then they are separate from the Dynamics ERPs. So it's this is something that will need to be looked into, because normally when you want to integrate with Salesforce, you would integrate the Dynamics ERPs because you want to transfer data from there to Salesforce or the other way around. But for this particular case, we will need to know what's the scope, what's the intention, what exactly you want to integrate, so that we can understand, okay, this is the type of integration that you would need, this is how we would do it. So if it's something that you need right now, then we definitely need details around it. You can reach out to us afterwards and explain what you want to do, and and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, I think the person who made the question is not connected anymore, but Adarva, we will reach out to you, and if it's not clear, we can discuss. Okay, so I will go through the questions that we prepared, and if I see something in the chat, I will check it out. So first of all, we are sometimes asked that what would happen that when shall we start our integration when considering to upgrade from an earlier ERP like AX to Finance, or even from Business Center to Finance?
Yeah, so here I think it's good to start early. So when you already have this plan, right? You're thinking about upgrading and you're thinking about having this new integration, right? Then it's good to reach out to the sales team and say, okay, this is the plan, this is the timeline, this is what we want to do, this is how it should look, right? So then you can have everything prepared, and then by the time you have everything right on your end, then you should be good to go for the integration. So I think do it as soon as possible, so then we also understand what you want to do, and then maybe we need to make some recommendations or to advise you on certain topics. So yeah, as soon as possible, reach out, and then we will guide you from that point onward.
Okay. And how do we deal with the integration if we have plans to roll it out to other countries?
Yeah, so here I think, well, this is a bit similar to the previous one in the sense that if you want to put together a rollout plan, then it's important to let us know, like how you want to do it, which are the phases of that rollout, and which are the countries, and what's different about them, right? So the idea is to reach out to the sales team, explain the scope, whether it's the same as the other countries, right, or anything that's particular, and then the timeline, like how much time you need for this, where when you need this to be done, basically. So everything around the project, right, and in the scope, and then you should be able to start really fast, because a rollout, it's not like a full project itself, it's like a mini project which is associated with the initial one. But make sure to reach out as soon as possible, so then everybody's aligned and there's no miscommunication.
Mhm. Okay. People also ask, should we use timestamp fields for integration purposes?
Yes, at all times, every time, 100%. So, yeah, I think this is a very common question, because in some systems it's pretty difficult to actually expose or publish these fields on any type of table. But it's a small effort that you have to do in the early stages of the project, so that when you have the integration up and running, then everything will run smoothly. Without timestamps, without that in place, then imagine that we would read everything from your system at all times. So every time we want to transfer data, we read everything over and over again, because we are not telling the system, this is the time and date that we need to look at. So from this, time and date onwards, you need to transfer records. So we have to tell the system what to do and how to do it. And without the timestamp, the system is just clueless, and then we'll just try to transfer everything. And this will put, a burden on your system, because the query will be very long, and you have to wait for that to finish. So yeah, use timestamps, because you'll see a really good performance of any data flow. So it will take a few seconds compared to hours when you don't have a timestamp.
Mhm. Okay. And what would the process be if I decide to change my CRM?
Okay, so then if you decide to do that and you say, okay, I'm just moving to this CRM, then it's good. I think it's recommended to reach out to the sales team and say, okay, this is the plan, this is what we want to do, and then also have everything clear with regards to your transition from one CRM to the other, and then timelines and any changes that will happen along the way. It's good to have that very early, because then we can guide you through the process and say, okay, this is my recommendation, this is what we should do. So a lot of things that might be useful for you when you are going through this process. So make sure to reach out soon, so that we can have everything running smoothly afterwards.
Mhm. Yeah, so have someone asking, how would you handle deleted or deactivated records?
Yeah, so when it comes to deleted records, then we do have mapping templates for that. So it can happen that you have sales orders, right, in finance, and you transfer that to Salesforce. and then someone deletes the orders from one system, right? Because end users can do that. So if that happens, then you can have a data flow set up that it's meant to delete the order from the system that still has that order. So it means that if you delete that order from one place, then we will do it for you, and delete it from the other system so that you don't have any issues. So that's something that's being used by a lot of our customers because end users make mistakes and it happens. And then deactivated records. Here, whenever you have an integration set up, you always, usually we do look at specific filters. Like we want to look only at active records, right? Not inactive ones. So there are some kind of filters that can be set up from the very beginning. So we don't transfer all kind of records to the other systems. So for example, if you have customers, they will be marked as active if you're using them. And then if the customer is not active anymore in your system, you just put it as inactive. So then we skip the inactive ones and we only bring over the active ones. So this is a check in place that we do anyway from the very beginning. So we avoid sending data that's not useful.
Okay, why should we choose Rapidi integration platform instead of building integration by ourselves?
Okay, so here I think, well, if you want to build something by yourself and it's, that would be more like an internal or maybe a personal project that you want to work on and you don't have, and then you're not in a hurry to have that done, right? So it's something that it's not affected by anything. However, if you want to save time, if you want to save money and then also resources, right, then you would choose something such as Rapidi that has proven to work and can do whatever you need in a short amount of time. So then you get value out of it fast. You don't need to wait, 1 year or two to have that done and then see if it works, right? So I would say that go for the most efficient option. But of course, if you think you have all the time in the world, then you can you can choose your own project. But I think that's in today's world is very difficult and not a good idea, I would say.
Okay. Do we need additional development or configuration to include certain entity types?
No, so I mean, in Rapid itself, there's no additional development or anything because as as long as we have access to your data entities, then we are good. It doesn't matter, if they're standard or custom or whatever you have there. However, if there's some sort of setup or configuration that you need separately in finance, for example, then that's something that you need to do in your own environment. But we do not ask for any type of additional development or any extra work on your end.
Why should we choose Rapid integration platform instead of using any other standard integration tool?
Yeah, so here there are a couple of reasons. First, when you decide to work with Rapidi, so you have a full transparency over everything, meaning your contract, meaning the project itself, what's included, what it consists of, so everything. So you don't have any type of surprises. Other standard integration tools, they go more on this time and material basis in the sense that you start this integration project, but then if something changes or if you need more, then you have to pay additionally, right, from what you initially paid. So it's not very clear, like what would be your budget for that project, and it's not very clear how much will you pay in the end. So it's a very different process. And then the second one would be, so we talked about the mapping templates, for example. So we have those, they can be used, are ready to be used by anyone. And apart from that, they can be adjusted. So you can add custom fields to them, you can change them, you can do whatever you want with them as long as they meet your requirements. Other standard integration tools, they have this pre-built connectors or templates, right? And then you have to use them as they are. So if you are being offered templates for two specific systems, you have to use them as they are with the fields that they consist of. If you need to add custom fields, for example, or anything else, then that's not a standard integration. So it has to go, it has to go into what's called a custom integration, where things are completely different. So this is a huge difference, and I think it really matters for a lot of companies. And then support. In our case, support is included, so customers post go live benefit from that. So if they have issues or questions, they can reach out and they get specialized support from the team. Other standard integration tools might or may not, provide you with support. Support is not by default included. So if you need specialized support for that integration, then you need a separate contract and pay for it separately. Or there are situations when they would give you the first level of support, like the minimum one, but that's not something that will be beneficial, because you need someone that understands your setup and understands the integration that has been set up. So yeah, that would be more or less the reasons.
Yeah, very well explained. Okay, how are duplicated records handled during installation?
Yeah, so whenever we start an integration, we do look at the primary keys or IDs of those tables or objects, because we do want to rely on that. We want to rely on what's unique, right? Not on what's not unique or it's not reliable for that. So that's one. And then second, if for some reason the unique IDs that the system have are not enough, then we can create a combination of a combination of several fields that would represent this unique ID, so that we do not create duplicates in any of the systems. That's one. And then also, for example, Salesforce in this case, Salesforce has a setup in place which is supposed to check for any possible duplicates, right? So then if someone is trying to create the same account, then it will get this error that would say, you already have this account, you're trying to create a duplicate. So, and then of course in Salesforce, there are other functionalities that are being used together with the Rapidi integration so that we ensure uniqueness across the board.
Okay, one more question. How to set up your data integration project in 3 steps?
Yeah, so here, first of all, define the scope, because that's really important. Make sure you know what you want to do with this integration. Then the second one is connecting to your system. So we need to have access to them, have the right permissions, and be able to read the data. And then you can start using the mapping templates. So if you are in a situation, like you have a standard setup, you can use the mapping templates and test. You can run your use cases and you don't need to do anything else. So that's like a fast forward process that you can do. And then you'll have your testing done with your use cases. And then of course, during that phase, you can make changes and everything. And then you, if you're happy with the mapping templates and the testing, you go into production. So you'll synchronize your live data and then you're done. So yeah, that would be a really fast project.
And last one, why it's best to be prepared when handling errors?
Yeah, so here I think it's best to get ready from the very beginning, so that in production you understand the error messages. Of course, like 98% of them are data error messages, right? Data related error messages. So it means that there's something wrong with this data. So it means that you as a customer need to go into the system and see what happened. So someone maybe inserted, a bad value or something there that the other system doesn't like. So again, it's good to get prepared to be ready from the very beginning, because then in production, you'll know from the start where to go and what to do.
Thank you, Andrea.
Welcome.
Okay, so we invite you to register for our future webinars. Please save the dates. So next one we have will be in September 18th. It will be around HubSpot and MS Dynamics 365 integration. And of course, stay tuned for more upcoming webinars that we will be announcing. And of course, we have the link here to see the resources to the webinars. Also, if you'd like to know more about Rapidi, about the data integration, you can visit our website, and you have the link also to contact us if you have any project or any doubts. You will also be able to download the solution overviews, case stories, fact sheets, and you have technical documentation on the wiki. And of course, if you're not sure about something, please reach out. We are happy to help you. And also, please give us your feedback about the webinar. We will be sharing the slides with the link shortly after the webinar. And we will also be dropping the link in the chat for you. So it's important for us to know how the webinars, if the webinars are efficient, if you'd like to have any other topics or any other way of doing it, your opinion is really important. So a few words will be really helpful. Please follow us and connect through our social media channels. You will see that we are pretty active, and we will be sharing not only the webinars, but also some important data and important case stories about the data integration. So thank you very much for assisting, and we hope to see you soon.